Hello, welcome to this little video on CMI Assignment 501. In this session, I'll be talking about Assessment Criteria 2.2, so part 6 in our series. So nearly halfway, not bad. Right, so there we go. Assessment Criteria 2.2, analyze the impact of management and leadership styles on individuals and teams. Worth breaking this one down a little bit into its component parts, which of course is what we've got to do really. So what does analyze mean? What's the CMI asking for? Break the subject or complex situations into separate parts and examine each part in detail. Identify the main issues and show how the main ideas are related to practice and why they're important. Reference to current research or theory may support the analysis. So we've got to break it down. So what we're going to have to do is we've got 4 bits to this really. We've got, I would say, 2 different leadership styles that we need to talk about. And for each one, the impact on the individual, the impact on the team, and then some sort of summary to put it all together. And then we're there. So yeah, that's how I would see is how we would break it down. So I think in terms of thinking about leadership styles, any theory is fine to use, but we need a theory. There are many different models and approaches, styles of leadership which have emerged over the years. There's Lewin's autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire styles of leadership. There is McGregor's Theory X, Theory Y. There's transactional or transformational leadership. Uh, the sky's the limit. But what I would say is just choose 2. So for this assignment, consider analyzing the impact of 2 different leadership styles, potentially 2 competing or conflicting leadership styles. And remember to analyze the impact of each one on both individual and team performance. So that's it. It's just breaking this question down and approaching it in a logical and systematic way, really. So the piece of theory that I recommend, really good article by Daniel Goleman, published in about 2000. So I'm not sure if this really qualifies as being current, but it's a really good article, Leadership That Gets Results. If we've done a program together, it's possible that I've shared it with you. If not, if you do a little bit of Googling, we'll bring this up and you should be able to find it. But any issues, do drop me a note and I'll make sure I'll send it over to you as a PDF. So Daniel Goleman talks about 6 different styles of leadership. We've got the coercive style, do it my way, authoritative style, which is, this is the come with me approach. Just authoritative style is where you set out a vision, you tell people what you need to achieve, but then you give them flexibility in terms of how they get there. The affiliative style, which is about building relationships with people. Democratic style, which is about gaining consensus, it's seeking people's perspectives. Pace setting style, which is right, let's get moving. We're going to do it fast and at my pace, and so kind of like getting things moving in a hurry. And the coaching style, which is coaching conversations, kind of the opposite of pace setting, really. It's about slowing things down and looking really at how we develop people through the work that we do. All good. And so Goleman talks about, leaders having like a golf bag of different golf clubs and the different styles of different golf clubs. And so in different situations or scenarios, you might need to be able to draw on all of these, but some probably more than others. I'll come to that in a moment. So how might we go about this? So for the purposes of demonstration, really, what I have done is I've thought about the impact of coercive versus democratic leadership styles. So I would see these as being quite different. So coercive, be very autocratic, demanding, a lot of one-way communication, possibly a little bit bullying. Democratic, much more about gaining consensus and making sure that people's perspectives are captured and listened to so that everybody has a stake in what happens. So two really quite different styles of leadership. In terms of the impact on the individual first, with coercive leadership, the individual's told what to do. They have limited to no autonomy really in these sorts of relationships. They're kind of, you might hear things like you're paid to do, you're not paid to think. Quite rare really, but there are certain, I think, organizations that still have elements of that. in terms of impact, it's likely that the individual will develop a very transactional relationship with their work. It's hard to see how they're going to love it, being very instructed and kind of told what to do in a very sort of directive and autocratic way. So as a result of that, they're likely to have limited motivation for the job, probably just happy to get through the day, rather than, because they just don't have the autonomy and the permission really to bring more than that. So you might find that they're sort of there in body, but certainly not in soul. However, the coercive style of leadership may be necessary in very specific circumstances, like the fire alarms going off, and it might not be a practice, and it's like, right, everybody follow me, get out of the building. So, ticking time bomb sort of scenarios like that, where it's a really, challenging, critical incident and everyone's looking a bit confused, there may be moments where a little bit of that kind of autocratic leadership is required. But, if we're doing that all the time, that's going to be a huge problem. Democratic leadership, the individual is consulted. Democratic leadership works really nicely in terms of planning. So particularly if you're planning for a new strategy or change in the organization, democratic leadership is about really getting an understanding of what everybody thinks, feels, and believes. The individual's view is sought, so they have some autonomy and control over what's happening. They have an input, so they are consulted. Because of that, I mean, autonomy and control are very important to all of us, and those directly equate to our levels of motivation. Daniel Pink stuff um, the link between autonomy and motivation is really interesting. The book's called Drive. It's good. It's not hugely original. I think that there's plenty of other people have looked at this. How do you motivate people? It's you give them control and you give them autonomy. I think it's there's a number of different sort of researchers that have looked at that, and it seems to be pretty consistently true. So the individual, because they're consulted, they're motivated, they believe that they can affect change. The flip side to democratic leadership is it may be a slower way to proceed by gaining consensus and consulting with people. It may slow down decision making, which could cause some issues again in critical instance where sometimes you might desperately need a very fast decision. But when it does then come to getting the work done, you have engaged people who feel that they are on the journey, to use that metaphor, rather than just being told what to do. So that's how I would approach this. And so in terms of the impact on the individual, now, in terms of the impact on team performance and dynamics, I'm going to go back to the article. So excuse the numbers. It's actually hopefully a bit simpler than it looks. This is from Goldman's article, and he does a comparison of the different styles on the impact on team dynamics. So he calls it the climate of the team. So leaders go in and they apply different styles of leadership, and what he does in his study is he looks at the impact on things like motivation, morale, engagement, that type of thing. And the behaviors that go with that are listed on the left. So we've got flexibility, responsibility, standards, rewards, clarity, and commitment. So if we look at coercive leadership, you can see a negative score for everything. So coercive leadership, where that's used consistently, has a negative impact on the team's flexibility, responsibility, rewards, clarity, and commitment. A very small positive impact on standards. I suppose they're so probably terrified of making mistakes and paying attention to details, but that's quite a trade-off, but a very small gain. Overall impact, negative. There we go. So the overall impact on team climate, we can see from these numbers, is negative. Now, if we skip over to democratic leadership, it's a positive score for everything. Very positive for rewards. Okay, so that's interesting. So yeah, so the democratic leadership has an overall significantly positive impact on how the team operates and the climate in the team. So there we go, 0.43. So a significant gain in terms of all of these kind of motivation factors. So we can see again from this study, democratic leadership has an overwhelmingly more positive impact on team climate. So how motivation and morale in that team than the coercive style of leadership. So this could be something to discuss, couldn't it? And if you have a look at the article again, it'll give you a little bit more about the work that sits around this piece of research. So democracy, interesting. So pace setting leadership, we can see there that's low, so that has a negative impact on across the board pretty much. Very small gain around responsibility. That's interesting that it does. And the most positive is authoritative. Now that's interesting. So the style of leadership that has the overall highest impact is authoritative. So that's setting out a clear vision, a sense of direction. This is what you need to achieve, but how you get there is something that you can control and have autonomy over. That seems to work very well. So maybe there's something to take from that. There we go. So impact on the team. And again, this is quite, I like this paper because again, it just gives us plenty of stuff to reference and to talk about. I think though, what's really important isn't to get too bogged down into theory and to bring into this discussion as well your experience. So those 2 points really are about what leadership styles have you used or observed others use? What have you seen in terms of the impact of those leadership styles on individuals and teams? So where have you seen? So again, if you were to stick with coercive and democratic leadership, which I think is two good counterpoints, where have you seen coercive leadership and what impact did it have on individuals and teams? When have you seen democratic leadership and what impact has it had? And your experience, any stories or case studies that you can bring in will be excellent to support the discussion. Thank you very much. That's another. So that brings us to the halfway point. That's 6 assessment criteria down. And yeah, look forward to the next video.